What's up, Padawan? What's up, Padawan? Afrojoe, taking like a T.I. Logan. Today we're going to talk about Logan Paul and George Janko and their falling out. Before we get to that, why don't you like and subscribe and share this video and tell me what you think down in the comment section, and follow me on my other social media platforms, which will be down in the description down below. But Logan Paul and George Janko had a falling out. George Janko does not care for Logan Paul no more, because what has happened to him on the show Impulsive. Well, we're going to show him talking to Mike, one of the co-hosts of Impulsive with Logan Paul. Let's get into it like we should.
Understand why you and I were not talking.
You want me to be honest? The Bobby Lee situation.
Who was the first person that jumped off the couch and said, George just left, that was not good, we have to fix the situation?
But did they not cut that? You should have stood up for me and said, hey, you can't cut that. That's gonna make him look like an idiot for leaving.
Okay, let's slow down. We have numerous times on the show cut things that we believe will protect the integrity or reputation of the guest.
That protected nobody but him.
No, of the guest. That's what I'm trying.
Well, what about the guy that you break bread with, bro?
Sure.
If this was an episode that was you, and what happened to you, and then the whole world thinks that I walked away because I can't take a joke, that's
it. Parlayed into more stuff happening down the line.
I never had a problem with Bobby Lee.
No, he knows that.
I had a problem with the way that Logan and you were kind of gassing him to keep doing. He started the episode putting his balls in my face. Then every 2 seconds he kept grabbing my dick.
I don't think...
How would you feel if a man that has his back completely towards you, that only turns around to grab your dick,
right,
talk to your face, and you can't smack or beat the living brakes off of this guy because Logan makes me apologize to this man, or I don't have a job on Impulsive anymore? How crazy is that?
I don't think I understood. I can only speak for myself.
Bro, it's on a group chat.
I hope you can understand
it's on a group chat.
I didn't know that you were feeling.
But after the episode, do you remember when you called me and I said, Mike, this is all that happens, and you said it's our fault for not telling you this, but me and Logan are really the ones who should be talking to the guest. You are really there for a boys only episode. So while I get harassed, my other co-host is trying to fire me, and you're trying to leverage me to be quiet during other guests. And then on my birthday, you guys shot 3 episodes so I couldn't show up. That's crazy. It was on the calendar for months.
I think by the time we got there was so much confusion and disarray in the podcast that there was no coming back. We got to...
Now, this what gets me is, you're on Impulsive. Logan Paul, your co-host, was getting harassed. Your co-host was getting his private parts touched on your show. That's sexual harassment, my friend. If George Janko wanted to be an asshole, he would have took you to court, and Bobby Lee, and actually had a warrant, would have got a warrant or a subpoena, well, actually a subpoena, to get that footage of Bobby Lee doing that. George Janko has a right to go to a judge and get a lawyer, and the lawyer go to the judge and say, to get a subpoena on getting that footage of Bobby Lee grabbing his private part on your show, and you didn't do nothing about it. You can sit there and say, well, I didn't have nothing to do with it, but it happened on your show while both of y'all was on the clock, which means you allow a guest to harass one of your employees. You didn't do nothing. You didn't stop it. You didn't do nothing about it. You allowed it to continue. You can sit there and say, well, he's a man, he should suck it up. Are you going to tell that to a female when a guy does that to a female? Are you going to tell a female to suck it up for being groped by a man? George Janko just been sexually assaulted by a grown man on your show, and you edit it out and threaten to fire him. I question that, Logan. Why? Why would you do that? To what? Protect Bobby Lee? Dude, you're not thinking. You're in your 30s now, and you still thinking like a damn 15-year-old? You're in your 30s and you still thinking like a 15-year-old. You're not thinking about the consequences of your actions. But you do a video response to what George Janko said, and we're going to get into it. Right now, we're going to get into it. We're gonna get it done.
I'm not making money on the show, and I'm getting pushed out.
Money on the show.
I can show you my books. I was spending 10 G's a month being on the show.
All right, let's talk about this. Obviously, I wasn't on the podcast to represent myself, so I'd like to clarify a few things that were said. As well as having his own credit card, all expenses related to the show were paid for, including all travel and lodging. Obviously, George's total reimbursement came out to $20,000, 317 cents. I'd love to see any books that show otherwise. Spending $120,000 a year to be on a show is a little confusing.
This is a guy who's sending us screenshots of $11 million a week that he's making.
This statement is so crazy that it's almost laughable. That would mean I'm making $572 million a year. I'm nowhere near that. What happened was Prime had a very successful month. I think we did like 60 to 70 million, and I sent it to our group chat because I was proud of the business. I was stoked to show the boys, and I think George maybe misinterpreted that as like my personal income.
The show hit rock bottom, and we weren't getting paid. I was getting paid $5,000 a month.
But you did make a sizable amount of money on the show.
And by the
What would
way,
you say,
always
like,
grateful. I was always grateful
like
for
that?
it. Yeah, I don't like to talk about money.
I know he doesn't want to talk money. I know he bleeped it out, but George made $317,000 in the 15 months that he got paid for on Impulsive. The work requirements consisted of about 3 days a month, 3 hours each day, traveling the world, networking, and meeting some of the coolest people ever. It comes out to about $2,300 per hour, and he also had 10% equity of the entire show.
Not you, not Caleb, not Kevin, not Dylan. Nobody called me when I got fired.
George did not get fired. He quit. I'll touch on that in a second. But after he quit, I called him frequently. I reached out. I wanted to reconcile the friendship. I invited him to my birthday party and WrestleMania and even my ranch a few weeks later. He chose not to come. He also unfollowed all the people he mentioned on Instagram, which is maybe why they didn't call him. I don't know. I can't speak for them, but he still does not follow them to this day.
And then on my birthday, you guys shot 3 episodes, so I couldn't show up.
The 2 episodes he's talking about, not 3, were shot 4 days after George's birthday. His birthday's on January 3rd. We shot those episodes on January 7th. We were already in Vegas signing the UFC to Prime, and as we do, want to capitalize on the location and our use of time and energy and the guests in that city. George didn't come to work because he wanted to spend time with his family for his belated birthday, which I totally understand and we even praised.
One of the things that I love about George, he prioritizes his family and friends over anything.
I got my show going, and then not only was I controlled and pushed around on Impulsive, but then Logan's making calls and directing my show. He told me that I couldn't take Celsius.
So this is the big one. Making calls, trying to make it seem like I wanted to control his show is absolutely ridiculous. As you can see right here, I was like, hey, we got to get you Prime because I saw him drinking our competitor, and he told me to call him. He was filming my reaction to tell me he took a deal with a competitor. I told him, please don't film. Like, I'd like to talk about this. I hope you're joking, by the way. The truth is, I thought it was a bad look that my best friend and co-host took a brand deal with our competitor without consulting me, asking me, giving us even a chance to match it before he signed the deal, because the audience that he's building, at least at the time, on his own podcast was being funneled directly from the podcast that I was building with him. I said, hey, dude, I understand you need to make money. The entire text is right here that I sent him after our conversation, because I did understand his position if he needed to make money, but I thought it was also a little odd because he did make $317,000 in 15 months. Regardless, I did tell him I can't have him on Impulsive if he's going to take the deal with the competitor, but if after he makes the money he wants to come back to the podcast, he's more than welcome.
Hey man, where you're at, there's no room for you to grow. They won't let you grow. They will not let you grow.
I thought saying that to Mike was a little crazy. He's grown a lot. He has 2.7 million subscribers since we met. He's a multimillionaire, a best-selling author. I tried as much as I could to help him get into those positions, and it's not entirely because of me. Mike is a phenom in his own right, and he capitalized on the platform that I gave him, which is awesome. Just like George is doing now, but if that's not growth, like what is? In fact, I think people forget, like, I praised George for starting a podcast like a lot.
Georgie started his own podcast. I think it's a great idea. I always love when my co-hosts venture out and do their own things. Congratulations. It's awesome, guys. Check out his podcast.
And also saying they won't let you grow was a little hurtful because I thought at least I helped Mike do some of the things that he did, and I even encouraged him to start his own podcast.
I think you should take a page out of Georgie's book and start a show of your own.
There's no greater feeling than watching people love succeed. I tried to give people around me a platform, and if they capitalize on it, fantastic. Mike and George did. And George will even tell you this off camera. I encourage to pursue media comedy since 2015. I really believe in the and I still do. There's a lot. I'm not going to get into it, but this isn't to say that I didn't along the way. I did not have mocked his beliefs. I apologize for that. I should have stuck up for him with Bobby Lee, and I definitely should have had his back more like a friend. There's a lot of things I would have done differently, but here we are. It saddens me that our story has unfolded this way. I wish him nothing but health, wealth, happiness, all the success that he wants, and I hope that one day we can sit down and have a relationship and a conversation.
I had to start my own show.
But I tell you this, George Janko did do a video response saying all this shit was a lie. But he even Mark actually came out saying that what George Janko was saying was actually true. He actually did a whole video on this assessment and saying that pretty much that George Janko was telling the truth. George Janko was actually telling the truth, that everything he said was actually true, and that pretty much that Logan Paul's full of shit. Which I thought, okay, that's something else, because you hear this guy pretty much telling, like, you hear Mark telling this, like, we had a good time, we had the best time, and I think I feel bad because the falling out, but you hear from Mark that George Janko likes to do that to a lot of people, cut people off. When him and Mark had a falling out, he cut everybody off. He cut him off. But I'm gonna play the video. Well, it's not gonna play. But Mark has sit there and said that George Janko has did stuff like that, where he cut off people and he doesn't talk to them no more. But him and Mark reconcile and all this and that. But I look at it like, okay, like, Logan, you let a guest assault your co-worker or your employee on your show and didn't do nothing about it. I question that. Why did you let Bobby Lee sexually assault your employee? That's sexual assault. I don't give a fuck what you say with, but to find out there's people backing up George's, I believe George more than I believe Logan, because if you look at Logan's past, you can't trust him. Look what happened with ComfyZilla. He tried to sue ComfyZilla. He scammed people out of money. He made fun of somebody that erased themselves. He went to a country, poked fun at them, almost causing a major issue between two countries. And he's got a track record of causing issues. This man's in his 30s. In his 30s, causing issues, man. And he's still not growing up. He will never grow up. If it's gotten this bad, where he lets a guest sexually assault a employee on your show, doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman, they have the obligation to file a lawsuit against you because you allow it to happen. He works for you. If I was George Janko, I would have sued because you let this happen. But I believe George Janko more than I believe Logan Paul. You try to show receipts, but you didn't show every receipt. Mark has actually proven that you full of shit, which I'll put the video down in the description below. But Mark actually is backing up George, not you, but George. Mike, he's only taking up for himself and kissing your ass just so he can have some money. But that's all that is. You're not fixing nothing. But I say like this, man. Logan's is not a great guy. I feel if he doesn't change his ways soon, somebody's going to run up on him. And it's not going to be the best run up ever. He needs to change his ways before somebody gets a hold of him. Because it's getting to the times where things out in this world is getting too serious. And him doing stuff, you letting, I guess, sexual assault, almost SA, a grown man on your show, and you think it's funny. Dude, you take serious things and make it funny. Like, it's not a laughing matter. SA is not funny. A man grabbing another man by the private parts on a talk show, on a podcast at that, is not funny. Bobby Lee, he can sit there and play it. I like Bobby Lee. I feel bad for Bobby Lee, but you can't do that type of stuff in this world. A lot of things, like, think about it. George could have did something to him. George could have had a knife or anything on him. Could have had a pew pew on him and took him out. You just can't go around doing that to people. But tell me what you think down in the description down below. I want to know what you think. I think Logan Paul definitely needs to sit down and talk. I think Logan Paul and George Janko do need to sit down and talk and work things out. I think not just them two sit down and talk, but I think George, Mark, and Logan needs to sit down and talk, because back when they was doing YouTube, before the posts and all this shit going on, they was actually, dude, I liked it back then when I used to watch Logan Paul and the videos that he did with George Janko and Mark. I liked, especially when he had George come in and he played the theme song from George of the Jungle. Laughed my ass off, loved it. But now I just can't stand to watch this guy. Why did you go from that to this? But Mike made a good point. Says Logan only does business. One thing is, if you had great views making content with your two best friends, Mark and George, that would have been my business. And broke them into it. Like, I would have roped them into it. So look, let's us film a video together. Let's collaborate on my channel. Then I collaborate on your channel. Then we collaborate on his channel. If it brings in money for all three of us, fine, we continue to do that. Then that's how we do it. But not sit there and say, fuck you, I'm making my own money. Bye. And to sit there and talk about this guy's dad, that made it worse. But, and I knew something was wrong. And I knew something was up when Dorf Mamba quit coming around. When Logan Paul moved to Mexico, Dorf Mamba didn't go. And I question what happened to Dorf Mamba. Is Dorf Mamba and Logan Paul have a falling out? Because you don't see Dorf Mamba no more. You don't. You don't see them no more. You don't see Dorf Mamba no more. And it makes you question what happened. This is 4 years ago, losing our friend Dorf Mamba. And it's like I question it. But tell me what you think down in the comment section, because I believe George Janko more than I believe Logan Paul. Tell me what you think down in the comment section. Like and subscribe. Show your love.